Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new. I'm so happy to have you here today. Today we're going to be talking about the books I want to read in January. So in December I didn't make a TBR because I was feeling like a lot of pressure to read like books I had committed to, and I just wanted to read whatever I felt like, and so I did that. But I did notice, and this happens to me every time I don't set a TBR, is that I inevitably come to a point where I'm like, well, I don't know what to read now. Because there are like too many options, you know? So I decided that we're gonna do a TBR for January, and it's kind of modest. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the first book that I want to read, some of these I'm actually already currently reading that I just need to finish up, so we're going to talk about those first. So the first one is The Winter Bride by Gracie. Gracie is a historical romance author that I really enjoy. I really liked her Autumn Bride book, I read her Christmas Bride book, and I liked that one. So I picked this one because it's winter, and I figured what better time to read this than right now. So this follows a group of, some of them are sisters, some of them are sort of like sisters by choice, came on hard circumstances. They ended up finding this old woman in this home that kind of took them in, and then it's about them falling in love. So I really love this author. I think her books are so cozy and comforting, and I love the sense of found family in here. So I'm reading this one and I am enjoying it, so I'm looking forward to finishing that. Another book that I want to read is The Invisible Life of Addie Larue. This has been on my TBR for a million years. It's been on TBR videos several times before, and I have been such a huge fan of V.E. Schwab that I had actually pre-ordered this book before it even came out, and then it came out and I was just like so nervous and so hesitant, and I tend to do that, especially if a book then sort of gets a lot of popularity, then I am even more reluctant to get to it, but I'm gonna read it this year. I hope that that's going to be the first book that I read this year. So, the next book that I have on here is one that I'm actually already currently reading as well, is A Heart Sufficient by Nichole Van. Nichole Van is one of my favorite historical romance authors. I just adore her thoughtful, very well put together stories that show such a realistic and believable emotional romance. I just love her books so much. I've heard great things about this one, and I'm very excited to read it. Okay, now the next one is for my Fable Historical Romance Book Club. It is called Most Ardently. There's a link to join the book club down below. I am not super active in there, and I can't promise to be super active in there, but there is a community of people who are reading and commenting on the books as they read them, so if you want that type of community, please go join. It's full of historical romance lovers, some who are new, some who are very well seasoned, and it's a fun place, but it's very much dependent on the amount of interaction that you want to put into it, you know? So anyway, this one is Banned Sinister by KJ Charkes. KJ Charkes is an author I've been wanting to try for a long time. I know they write queer historical romances, and I know that they are very well regarded, and I'm super excited about this one. It sounds like this is I think he's maybe a nobleman who has started this like underground club called Murder that nobody talks about what's going on there, and then there is a lady and her brother who kind of she ends up getting injured and being under the care of him, the one hero, and then her brother falls in love with the one who owns the club. So I'm super excited about this one. This one I think is probably one of the ones by KJ Charkes that gets talked about the most often, so I'm very excited about that. Okay, so now the next one that I want to read is actually the only one that I have a physical copy of, and it is Dark Mirror by Juliet Marilier. So this is the first book in the Burdett Chronicles, I believe. Let's see if it will focus on my book. So, The Dark Mirror by Juliet Marilier. This is book one of the Burdett Chronicles. I may be pronouncing that wrong, but she writes really beautiful historical fantasy books that are often set in Celtic mythology or Norse mythology. And this one is basically about Burdett, who's a young nobleman. He ends up coming across a druid who says that he's set some tasks for Burdett to follow, and then so Burdett is young, and then a young child gets put on his doorstep on Midwinter's Eve. It's a young girl, and they know that, you know, she must be come by way of the fair folk, and so then Burdett and this girl grow up together, and it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. So I've been very excited to, I haven't read all the Seven Waters series. I've read 4 books in that series, and then I've read Wolfskin, which I loved. So I'm very excited to try a new series by Juliet Marilier. I just love and adore her writing so much, so I'm very hyped about that one. And that is a buddy read with my dear friend Jessin. Okay, so now the next book that I want to read is a novella, and it is called The Gallant by Janny Wurts. Janny Wurts is a fantasy author who is very well regarded for having really beautiful prose, very almost like dense writing, and stories that take a lot of effort to get into, and I think that could definitely turn some people off, but I'm very excited for that challenge. And this is a book that was recommended to me by Dylan from Spaced Out Reader, and I believe his Fable Book Club is doing this book for January, so I'm excited about this. Dylan said this one has a good romance in it too, and I'm hyped for that. So very much looking forward to this. This is like an entry point into her bigger fantasy book. So I'm excited to get a chance to try her writing and her worlds and her stories and see if it works for me. So okay, so now this next one is a historical romance that I got this recommendation from Erin from She Is Too Fond of Books on Instagram. This is Of Lands High and Low by Martha Keyes. Martha Keyes is an author that I've been wanting to try for a while. I have the series on my Kindle, or one of her other series about Highlanders, I believe. I don't actually know if it is about Highlanders. Maybe I'm thinking about this one because it says high and low. Anyway, I have one of her other series with a man on a horse. If I can remember, I'll put a picture on the screen. So this one is set in the 1700s. This is a historical romance, and this one sounds very interesting because we have a doctor hero whose only patient that he ever had was his father and died under his care. And then we have our heroine. It's a time when the plague is happening, a plague. I don't know if it's the plague. I actually don't remember what illness this was, but it was a doozy of one. And they end up meeting and falling in love. So I think this one sounds complex and just delightful, and I'm very, very, very excited about this one. Okay, the next book that I want to get to is Gild by Raven Kennedy. I've been going to read this book forever, but I've been so nervous about it because I want to see how I feel about it, but at the same time I feel like it's probably not going to be for me. But I picked up the audiobook for like $1.99 when Audible had their sale, so I just thought I would try it. And yeah, all I really know about this is that it's a darker fantasy romance, a King Midas type of retelling, because it's called Gild. That's all I know. So okay, the next book is Levias Song by Elsie Winters. So this is a book that has been on my radar for a while, but it was recently brought to my awareness again because of a different Erin who is on my Patreon. Erin recommended this to me. She said that she was really interested to see what I think. This one sounds super good. It is a paranormal romance slow burn, I believe, where he is a siren, half merman, and she is just a human girl, I believe, and it's their romance. So I'm super excited about this one. I really, really, really hope that I love it, and I'm here for fantasy romance right now. Fantasy romance and historical romance are pretty much the only thing on here. Some fantasy. I actually do have one contemporary romance. We'll get to that in a minute. Okay, the next book is another fantasy romance. This one is Kingdom of Claw by Demi Winter. So this is book 2 in, I actually can't remember the name of the series. The first book is The Road of Bones, but this is the second book in a fantasy romance series. This one is based on Norse mythology. This has a found family element. I really liked the first book. I'm very excited to read this and see where it goes from book 1. Okay, so now these next two are books that I got off of Libro FM. They have an ALC influencer program, so I am signed up for that, and these are the two that I was most interested in for January. So the first one is a book I've heard great things about, but I've also heard some things that are not so good, but I'm very curious about it, and it is Heavenly Bodies. This is a fantasy romance, and I'm not, just reading the blurb, I'm not entirely sure what this book is about. I'm obviously stars and things like that. I know that it says in the blurb the only entity that is there is a star, and this girl falls in love with the star, but I just sort of don't understand what they mean, like the only entities that are around. Like, that's interesting. So yeah, I'm interested to see how I feel about that one. And then the last book on my TBR is All the Missing Pieces by Catherine Cowles. So I have read Catherine Cowles' only one book. It's been several years, and I see her get so much love, and I really want to give her another try. This book was on the Libro FM ALC program, so I grabbed the audiobook. I know this is about, I believe, is it a sheriff or a detective? He's some type of lawman, and she is a true crime podcaster, romantic suspense. Small town, maybe? I don't remember if it is or not. I feel like she generally writes small towns romantic suspense. So yeah, I'm excited about this one. Very, very excited about it. So I'm thrilled. January, I have some great books on here, some books that are going to be comforting, some new authors, new to me authors, new reading experiences, new Yeah, I'm excited. I think it will be good. And I also wanted to mention, I did not include in this TBR, but in January from the 13th to the 19th, me and Jen and Rachel and Lisa, I will have them all linked down below. I know Jen has an announcement video as well about this, but we're going to be hosting a historical romance readathon that starts on the 13th and goes to the 19th. So I haven't set my TBR for that yet. I may be pulling from some of the books on here that I have, but yeah, very excited about that. Please join us. We would love to have everybody join us for that readathon. It will be a ton of fun. And thank you so much for watching, my friends. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Please let me know what book you are most looking forward to read in January, and I will see y'all in my next one.